Hi, good afternoon. My name is Robert Walker, and I'm brand manager for retirementhomes.com. Welcome to our February webinar. We are North America's leading online senior housing directory and resource, which includes our housing directory, our online library, and e-newsletters. We also offer, free of charge, the top experts in senior living every month who will share their knowledge in the fields of marketing, research, sales, and related areas, in webinars such as the one you're about to hear. This month, we present Irving Stackpole, president of Stackpole & Associates, based in Brookline, Massachusetts. Irving's presentation, Running on Empty, Sales and Marketing When There's No Budget Left, will share avenues we can use to maximize use of limited marketing dollars. Irving is an in-demand speaker on the senior living circuit and has spoken at conferences hosted by the American Healthcare Association, the American Society of Consultant Pharmacists, and others. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you would like a question answered, raise your hand in the toolbar to the right, type in your question, and time permitting, it will be answered at the end of the presentation. And now, here is Irving.
Robert, for arranging this. We've had a few technical challenges which I hope are now overcome, and that you can all see the PowerPoint presentation, Running on Empty, Sales and Marketing When There's No Budget Left. To get started, I'd like to just review a few definitions. I find that's a good way to set the tone. First of all, I'd like to offer a definition of sales. Oftentimes, sales and marketing, as in the title of this program, often they're lumped together, but of course they're really quite distinct. Sales is generally behaviors and interpersonal skills which are used to persuade and influence customers and consumers to select your product or service as opposed to others. It's also oftentimes referred to as securing commitment. Marketing, on the other hand, is the management of the interface between your company, your organization, regardless of what kind of service or product it sells or offers to the marketplace. It's the management of the interface between your company and its markets. And that the management of that interface can take on many different characteristics. There's quite a lot involved with that, but there's an alternate definition for marketing, and that's that the department that gets cut first when times are tough and occupancy declines or flattens. And for the word occupancy, you could substitute enrollment, you could substitute customers, you could substitute bed count, whatever metric is appropriate for the service organization, the environment in which you work. Marketing is the subject of the pressure when times are bad. So the question is, how bad is it out there? We are all quite aware of the economic difficulty and the Great Recession through which we are passing, but how, from our perspective, and I'm going to assume the perspective of seniors housing operator and marketing and sales personnel, how bad is it? Well, the first thing we have to look at is the size of the market. Now, the market is age, income, asset, and other qualified individuals, but we really have to start with the age qualified individuals in the markets we serve. That defines the scale of the market, the size of it. And while there's much ballyhoo about the size of the 65-plus age cohort, the fact is that our age cohorts, which are the 85-plus and the 75 to 84-year-old age cohorts, they have either been flat or, as you can see in this slide, they have actually declined over the past several years. These demographic facts are the result of the baby bust which occurred during the Great Depression. And as you can see in this slide, I've circled the chronological year and the birth year associated with that 5-year age cohort. And what we can see is that we're right about here in this demographic curve. So we can see that the 85-plus cohort continues to decline despite what you may read. The most recent decennial census in 2010, the data is beginning to be retrieved from that, and there's some very good reports available on these seniors' data from the decennial census. And the fact is that the 75 to 84-year-old cohort has declined, and the 85-plus cohort continues to decline. And furthermore, the situation in the macro environment is highlighted by the CaseShiller Home Price Index. The sale of the primary residence is not only an important liquid asset that seniors turn to, or ersatz liquid asset that seniors turn to in order to fund their retirement, and in particular a change in housing, but the perception of the value of that real estate is also critical. And as we can see from this particular chart, this CaseShiller Home Price Index, we're still below the baseline of the housing values as had been previously established. And the seniors that are looking to their primary residences as a source of cash and funds to fund their retirement feel this quite acutely. And the pain isn't limited exclusively to real estate. This is a graph that shows that other forms of investments and other asset classes are not performing well either. And the bottom line is that it's unemployment or the lack of employment, which is driving the current economic circumstances. This graph is a chart of the past 5 recessions, comparing it with the current recession, and based on the depth and severity of the unemployment rate. You can see here, I think you can see why economists are referring to the current economic malaise as the Great Contraction, or the Great Recession. These economic and macroeconomic facts are having an effect on the psychology of the target market as well. There is a well-known index of well-being called the Gallup Healthways Well-Being Index, and as you can see from this, it has been declining and it continues to trail off, although I suspect a recent upturn in reported employment may have a positive uptick in this, although it's not been reflected in the retrospectively collected information yet. So the market conclusions we have to draw are that, first of all, the market size is static right now. Currently, interestingly, I just wanted to throw in this factoid here. We have about 6.5 million widows in the United States, but this is going to double by 2020, which is an important harbinger or bellwether for the required services that seniors housing and seniors services providers needs to pay attention to. Assets have been clobbered, not just home values and perceived home values, but other asset classes as well, stocks, pensions, portfolios of all kinds. The media messages are depressing. You need only look at the USA Today to know that time after time we're told of further economic difficulties, crisis in the Eurozone, crisis in the employment scene, losses, more losses of jobs with major employers, etc. Another very important feature of this demographic market for us is that disability rates are declining. We are, as a population, we are staying healthier longer into our age, into our older age, and that has an impact on our perceived need and actual willingness to buy into seniors housing and senior services. And from the perspective of seniors housing providers, there are many, many more options available to seniors today. Home health agencies, home and community-based services, and I'll make a note here that the Affordable Care Act, or as it's referred to sometimes, Obamacare, provides significant funds to shore up the primary care system in the United States, and in particular invests heavily in community health centers, which have historically been the poor stepchild of the healthcare delivery system in the United States. If ACA, the Affordable Care Act, continues with its current implementation, we will see a significant strengthening of community health centers and community-based health services. And finally, when residents do finally make the decision, individuals, consumers, prospects finally do make the decision and relocate to seniors housing centers, their acuity is much greater. The dependencies, ADL and IADL dependencies, are much higher, and that's a characteristic of the consumer as she enters our residences. Well, what this means for sales professionals and marketing professionals is that we're getting clobbered. We're under attack from managers. We're pressured to do more. We are offered fewer resources, and the robust, the sunny and rose-tinted glasses that were being worn by many owners have been taken off, and in many cases were taken off some time ago. So what I hope to offer here is some concrete suggestions about what we can do in the context of these difficulties. And of course, it's anybody's guess as to how long the current contraction or Great Recession will endure, but there are things that we can do, and there are things that we can do with low or no budget. The first is I would like to offer some very concrete and specific suggestions about how to leverage the employees that are currently working in our centers. Second, I'd like to talk about how we can educate the community about the value and about the contributions that our community makes, our centers make to the community, so educating the community. And third, there is a hidden treasure trove of value to be found in the testimonials that we already, most of our communities already possess, but we aren't, many of the communities with which I and my colleagues work simply don't leverage these testimonials properly and to their greatest benefit. I also want to observe that while the technology doesn't allow me to see your faces, I certainly hope that you'll weigh in with questions along the way. And if you can't hear something or you want me to go more slowly or pick up the pace, please let me know. It's very difficult to see your faces. In fact, I can't see your faces. But I can read your texts and see your notes. So along with this sense of these three domains where I believe we can have a very specific and very concrete impact on our task in the seniors housing, seniors services sector, I want to be aware that in the sales life cycle, there are 3 components. There's lead generation, lead conversion, and customer retention. We can have a very positive impact on the bottom line of the services we provide if we can impact any of these, and the best situation, of course, is to impact all of them. And we'll look at lead gen, conversion, and retention from each of these perspectives. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is leveraging employees. Employees are a significant competitive advantage to all of the seniors services and seniors housing providers. Loyal employees are correlated, heavily connected to loyal customers, and loyal customers are, of course, customers we can retain. Our employees should also represent positive word-of-mouth marketing in the communities we serve, and that should increase our referrals. And then the final point about employees as competitive advantages is that loyal employees should also serve as recruitment magnets. That is to say, good employees should be attracting other good employees to work in our centers. My company does many employee engagement, employee satisfaction surveys, and one of the comments we love to see when we ask employees, would you recommend XYZ service center, service provider to your friends and families as a place to work? We love to see comments that say, absolutely, but only if they meet our standards, because that tells us that those employees feel a sense of pride in their engagement with that employer. And yes, we do see comments like that in our employee engagement, employee satisfaction surveys. The other advantage that employees represent is that employees can be an operational advantage. Loyal employees reduce recruitment costs for many of the reasons that I was just discussing. Loyal employees reduce or eliminate agency costs because loyal employees will feel obligated to help fill in the gap when someone is sick or suddenly is unable to come in. Loyal employees also reduce management costs because, of course, loyal employees are far more likely to behave properly and demonstrate good behaviors on the job. So there's fewer interventions that management has to undertake in order to correct or manage behaviors on the job. And this isn't just a theory. The data is very clear. There was an excellent study done by Elzbieta Sikorska in Florida about this, and this is just the abstract. I want to get to the main point here, is that greater resident satisfaction in the facility was associated with higher staff job satisfaction and more positive staff views of the organizational culture. And these are two-way ANOVAs, which indicates that these two concepts are causal. In other words, a more positive staff view of organizational culture generates or is causal to greater resident satisfaction. You'll notice in this particular slide that I've put as stated beside facility there. I consider that word the F word in marketing and sales of seniors housing, and I would urge you to reconsider using that term if you are using it at all in your sales and marketing approaches. There's only two other types of locations that we use that word for, and one of them is a prison and the other one is a place where we go to the restroom. You know, we call those facilities. I don't believe that we should be using the same term in reference to the housing and services provisions infrastructure, our centers that we have invested so heavily in. So employees are indeed valuable assets, which in my experience are poorly leveraged. And in fact, my experience is that, as this poor fellow is about to discover, if the video will run here, this is how employees are usually treated. It's a cold dunk in a otherwise unanticipated pool of water. So I'd like to talk about employees, leveraging employees. What can we do about leveraging our employees? Well, very briefly, we need to first of all understand our employees. A significant number of employees in seniors housing and senior services settings are what we would call Generation Me. They are the millennials. And the issues with millennials are distinctive. By the way, there's a very good book to this subject by the author's name is Twenji, called Generation Me. And the issue here, from the perspective of baby boomers who are often finding themselves in a position of managing this cohort, is that Gen Me employees are, they feel entitled. Not in a negative way. This is the result of their upbringing. We, their parents, were very successful. I have 3 Gen Me children, and I can tell you that they indeed have a sense of entitlement. Their self-esteem is completely unrelated to their actual performance. They feel as though they deserve positions, they deserve titles, and they deserve promotions. They're also very committed. They want to do well while doing good. There is a very deep vein of altruism in their outlook on life. Paradoxically, they are also quite cynical. They have very great difficulty making ends meet. They have a very jaundiced view of the American dream, and they don't believe that Social Security is going to be there for them. And they have a very hard time with hierarchy. So what can we do? What's a tactical task that we can undertake to leverage employees? Well, one of the things that I do in the live seminar is I ask audiences how many folks actually have an employee referral program in their organizations. And by that I mean a program where employees are recognized and or rewarded for referring prospective customers or consumers to the service provider, to the housing center, the skilled nursing center, the assisted living residence, whatever it may be. And usually about half or more of the audience will raise their hand, and then I ask how many actual referrals have been made, and usually over half of the people who had held up their hands lower their hands. So if you have a referral program, a customer referral program within your center that has not produced at least 1 or 2 referrals in the past 2 or 3 months, I'm going to suggest that you blow it up and start all over again. In fact, that you redevelop it in a very public and transparent way. If you don't have a referral program, here's the formula for doing it. First of all, create a referral work group. Call it a process group, call it a task force. Whatever you do, don't call it a committee. Secondly, it should have 5, up to 5, but no more than 5 cross-functional members. Not the usual suspects, not the director of patient or resident care services, not the activities director, but somebody who works in dining and housekeeping, somebody who works in maintenance, and somebody who does direct point-of-service care. Receptionists are often very good at this. Secondly, that you give them, or thirdly, that you give them manageable, specific goals. In other words, we expect that this group's effort will generate 4 referrals by a specific date. These are what's called SMART objectives. The SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, so you'll know if it's done or it's not done, achievable, responsible, and time-based. So a measurable goal for a referral work group would be to achieve 4 referrals per month by X date. Once the group is set up, it's important to let the group do its work. And you all probably have heard this before, but groups always pass through 4 stages. They form, they norm, they agree on when they're going to work and how they're going to work and collaborate. They storm, they have a release of energy, and then they actually perform. So the idea is to set goals, but not to meddle. The other observation about employee referral work groups or task force is that use altruism and reward as a stimulus for the group. It isn't appropriate to use money only. Money sometimes helps, although it's far better in our experience to use a mix of rewards and to not have the awards or recognition for the achievement of either the referral or the group to be standardized. So one week it could be a gas card at a local gas station. Another week it could be a coupon to a nice dinner. Another month or week it could be something else. But alter the rewards and mix them up. Don't have them be standardized. That creates an expectation and actually dulls or lessens the impact of the program overall. So the whole idea here is to create energy around an employee referral work group and to leverage this energy to help create referrals, to do lead generation within the community. The secondary benefit of a employee referral work group is that it will draw attention to the role of virtually all the employees as representatives of the community, of the service, of the center in the community at large. You are, after all, attracting employees from most centers, attract employees from within your catchment area or your primary marketplace area, and these employees have relatives and are talking about your services to their friends, relatives, and colleagues outside of work. I sometimes get the comment, yeah, but our employees aren't our target market because they couldn't afford our service. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that be absolutely wrong. You may see your director of dining services or even one of your cooks pull up in a barely functioning 1972 Monte Carlo Chevrolet. But what you don't know is that her uncle, who is the father-in-law of the person you really want in your building, is actually easily able to supplement the income of that person to become a resident at your community. So leveraging employees is oftentimes an overlooked, but in our experience, extremely valuable, low budget, no budget way to help do both lead gen and conversion. So the bottom line here is that we're asking our employees for help. We're asking them for referrals. We're encouraging them to connect with us via LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We need to be very careful, of course, with Facebook and who we're connected. And we wish to monitor the results. If you, as individuals working in your centers, haven't set up monitoring and surveillance in the work that you're doing, you absolutely need to do that. You absolutely all should have Google Alerts, at a minimum, Google Alerts set up, and if you want, you could go to Google and figure out how to do this, or we could talk about this offline, but you need to set up Google Alerts for your centers, your center executives, and the prominent individuals who are involved in your centers. That's one way you will monitor results to see how frequently and in what kinds of searches your center's name and those attached to your center, the individuals attached to your center, come up. So for example, and I'll just use a personal example. In my case, I have Google Alerts set up for Stackpole and Associates as well as for Irving Stackpole and a host of other subject matter or content or topical areas as well. The other point I want to make about leveraging employees is mix and alter the rewards. One type of reward is not in my experience successful. The awards need to be varied. The awards and the rewards need to be mixed. Altruism can be a great award. So for example, if an individual refers a prospect to the center, that individual prospect becomes a client of the center, a resident or a consumer, then you can make a donation of a certain amount to that person's charity of their choice, or give them an option for making a donation to a charity of their choice. That this type of award or reward resonates particularly well in our experience with Gen Me. So the second tactic I want to talk about is the educating the community. The first step, of course, is to find your audiences. Who are they? Where are they? What do they need? And what do they want to know? And the point I want to make about this is that I believe strongly that a key part of our audiences in senior services and seniors housing are the unpaid caregiver. There's been a great deal written about this. They are becoming an even greater focus of attention within the non-governmental organizations that are responsible for managing seniors services. They're recognized as being an underpinning to seniors services and a way of mitigating the impact of the public cost of seniors services in many, many markets. These unpaid caregivers, I would dare say there are probably among the 100 people or so that are listening to this program, many of you are unpaid caregivers. And so you can use a mirror approach, so to speak, to determine what messages and what channels you want to use. The issue here is that positive messages stick. Positive messages about what can be done. You're not alone. We at ABC Housing, or we at Everglades Community Center, we can help you. We have resources and insights, and the assets that we've got within our organization are the employees and the knowledge that our employees have. So for example, our employees include individual social workers who understand that it's difficult to have a conversation with mom or dad about when it's time to stop driving. It's difficult to have a conversation with mom or dad about their inability to continue to cook. It's difficult to have conversations with your brothers and sisters about the challenges that mom or dad are facing. These are the kinds of conversations, these are the kinds of helpful assistance that we as a services provider can offer to the community at large. And in fact, we're educating the community, and when we brand that education with our brand, we are passing value along and helping to build both awareness of the services we offer, educating the community at large, and building our brand. So we want to find the channels, We want to develop relationships and make commitments. Scrapbook, as I say, these activities and successes on our website, and we're going to talk a little bit about using Web 2.0 channels. So selecting the channels, the critical issue is the content. Content is king. It's critical, as we say, and engagement is critical. How do we engage communities with the content that they need? Well, one of the ways we do that is with events. A very traditional way of doing it is to host a lecture or a seminar or a program at our locations to which we invite the community. And please, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this occur, please have sign in and please collect email addresses. These email addresses will become the currency. They are the current currency of internet marketing and will become even more pivotal. We can also use print and non-paid media. That is to say, many people refer to this as public relations. These non-paid channels are eager to have good content, if it's not too self-promotional, eager to have good content about, as I was referring earlier, conversations with mom and dad about when it's appropriate to stop driving or when it's inappropriate to continue driving, when it's safe or no longer safe to live at home, and how do we have tough conversations with each other about, siblings have conversations about mom or dad, as well as physical safety issues around the house and many other topics, pharmacy, etc. But once we make the commitment to develop a program of communicating with and educating our communities, we need to stay the course. We need to develop a discipline around creating the content and pushing it out into the channels we use. We talked a bit about social media. These channels are very inexpensive. We talked about LinkedIn, Facebook, and using blogs. I'd like to focus a little bit on LinkedIn, which I think is a very good professional channel. Facebook is a little risky. It's a very good channel, but it's somewhat more difficult to manage and control, because ultimately in internet marketing and in social media, especially in social media, there's both a pull and a push phenomenon. It's best if we can develop active participation. Active participation would be a discussion around daycare resources, psychological support, pharmacy, physiotherapy, that kind of thing, among the non-paid caregivers that we would consider our target market in our marketplace area. I'm going to show you here. I've got this is a little self-promotional, but it's just an example. This is a LinkedIn group that we manage called Marketing and Sales in Healthcare and Seniors Housing. And believe me, if we can do this, you all can as well. Here's another example of groups that were created. There really is an opportunity to create. You can see this Friends of Country Place Living is a discussion group, and you can easily create groups of your own and begin to, through polling and placing links on the web to those groups, pushing those links out to the groups, you can begin to create a dialogue in your community about areas, about subjects that are of interest to your audience. Okay, so the issue is to get your knowledge out there, and that includes bylines and interviews in local paper, radio and cable TV. These are not high-cost channels. Social media is a low-cost channel. List of local media. You should have a database list of your local media, and you should. We hope that you are contacting them before they are contacting you. The third area that I want to go through very quickly are testimonials. The question, of course, is, do you have testimonials? Many of you do. The question is, where are they? I've been in hundreds and hundreds of nursing centers around the United States, possibly thousands. I know I've been in thousands of hospitals. I've probably been in 15 or 1,600 nursing centers. And invariably, the testimonials are in a handsome notebook in the lobby, closed up. You've got to go looking for them. You've got to know where they are to find them. And that, in this day and age, is not serving your center or your service well. Where can they be seen? They can be seen online. Or if you have a physical location, the testimonials can and should be posted on the walls in the lobbies, and especially in the employee areas where the employees can see them. And of course, the reason for this is that loyal customers, and only a raving fan would provide you with a testimonial. They are demonstrations of the loyalty, and they in turn will reduce your marketing costs by providing outstanding reference and word-of-mouth marketing. Because of course, how loyal your customers are indicates their willingness to give you an endorsement. Your consumers, your customers, that's your referral sources, and your employees. So loyalty is far more valuable than satisfaction in general. The measure of loyalty is willingness to recommend, and the actual recommendations and testimonials are indeed evidence of that loyalty, which brings us full 360 to the conversation we started with this afternoon with regards to leveraging employees for employee referrals. So these kinds of no-cost, low-cost undertakings are extraordinarily valuable, and if used aggressively can have a tremendous impact. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. There are citations that I've got attached to this PowerPoint. The PowerPoint will be posted on my website, as the Stackpole and Associates website, as well as the retirementhomes.com website for your access. So with Robert's assistance here, I'd like to field some questions.
Yes. Hi, Irving. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. So we have a question here. Do you have any suggestions for utilizing employees within a union environment which imposes restrictions on what employees can do and are willing to do?
Okay, well, that's a terrific question, and we are currently, I have in the past, and we are currently working in several unionized environments, and there are absolutely no restrictions to asking employees for referrals. One of the things that occurs when you ask employees for referrals, especially when you ask employees to develop the referral program, is you will find out, that's an excellent metric, an excellent measure of how loyal and how willing your employees are to actually refer consumers and customers to you. One can operate in a unionized environment where the employees are extraordinarily loyal, and I'm working with one right now, a very large nursing center in New York, where the employees enthusiastically make referrals of other employees as well as prospective consumers. So there are no fundamental restrictions, and if you suspect that your employees are not loyal, then it's extraordinarily important to understand that and then to take interventions to remediate that. Because if you've got a situation where you've got employees who aren't loyal and you're marketing and selling, you're out there flogging the heck out of your service, and the disgruntled employees, whether they're unionized or not, that's really secondary. The disgruntled employees are out there undercutting everything you're trying to do. That's a situation that's just not tenable. Your marketing ROI in that circumstance is negative, and that situation needs to get remediated.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Irving, for that stimulating presentation. Again, that was Irving Stackpole of Stackpole and Associates. And for the full presentation, including the slides, They will be available at retirementhomes.com, as well as at youtube.com/retirementhomes, and of course on Irving Stackpole and Associates site. Next month, mark your calendars for Tuesday, March 13th, when we are pleased to host Lisa Legier of accounting firm Dixon Hughes Goodman, who will teach 10 financial strategies for maximizing your community's performance. You can check other of our websites or contact me at Robert@Retirement Home for details. Thank you very much.